Welcome to Internet Money, where we talk about how entrepreneurs are using the internet to make money. Today, I am in beautiful Huntington Beach, California, and I'm so excited to bring this interview that I did with Brenton Garen. He is the owner and founder of the Garen Group, which is a lead gen agency that focuses on serving chiropractors. Now, as an agency guy, something that I have constantly wrestled with is whether to niche down and serve a specific industry or to keep myself broad in terms of industry and service so that I can take on all the opportunity that is in the space. Now, I know the right answer and I know what I should be doing, but somehow I still refuse to do that. However, Brenton is someone who has experienced and experimented a lot of the digital marketing industries and services and has finally decided to go all in on chiropractors, and it has served him incredibly well. He has been able to scale his business to incredible heights and still has a very lean team. In fact, he has kept his team within his family. So we're going to talk about how he has really perfected his product in terms of what he delivers to his clients, the chiropractors, as well as how he has perfected his systems internally, whether it's onboarding, whether it's retention, whether it's sales, and how this has helped him to scale into these incredible numbers, even as a lean team. So I'm so excited to bring this interview to you today. I know it's going to be incredibly valuable, especially those of you considering the agency model. Enjoy. Let's dive into basically how you guys got started and what that whole beginning stage looked like for you.
Yeah, I think I had just turned 30 years old and had been doing the grind, working for someone else, as we all do when we start our careers, right? I was actually working in journalism and I was seeing a trend that newspapers and journalism was dying. So I'm like, I want to do something different with my life. And again, didn't really know what that was until I sort of came across like digital marketing and the opportunity that lies out there to help small business, again, grow their business and in turn grow your own. So yeah, I started, almost 7 years ago, looking into digital marketing and the opportunities. Again, it was a lot of fails and fails and more fails over many years until we got sort of, at least I had it figured out. And then once I had it figured out, it's like, well, the next step after that is to sort of scale and bring on team and get help to grow it more, because you get to a point where you can do so much, but then obviously you want to help more businesses, but you can't do it all yourself. So that's when a team comes into play.
Let's talk about that because I think that's a very common journey, especially for digital marketers, internet entrepreneurs, where you kind of are exposed to making money online and then you start to see, like, your eyes are just open. Oh my goodness, look at all this opportunity, look at all this different way, all these different ways to build business and et cetera. So we get a little bit of like this shiny object syndrome, and then, we maybe dabble in this, dabble in that. I mean, that was my experience. It sounds like that was a little bit of your experience as well. Um, I guess what were some of those trial and error areas that you had kind of tried out, and then how did you eventually stumble upon what's now My Chiro app?
Yeah, definitely. So the first idea that I had is I'm going to build websites. Like I had a travel blog that I was managing in WordPress, and I was building out pages and writing blogs on the side while I had my job. And I'm like, this is fun. Like I can create a website and whip one up and I can sell these things to everyone and I'm going to make millions and millions. So that was my first taste of like, all right, well, I just need to get one or two going. So I sent out a couple of hundred emails saying, hey, I want to build your website for $500. And again, thought it's going to be easy. So out of all those hundreds of email, I think one guy replied. He was like a deck company out of Phoenix. And he's like, yeah, like I need a new website. Like, what do we need to do? So I'm like, oh, cool. I've got one. So very excited. I'm like, I'm going to make $500. Well, it turned out to be a long, tedious journey that took about 3 months to finish. He was very difficult to work with, very overbearing, wanted changes, and then wouldn't get me stuff, and then would ghost me for a month at a time. And then finally, I get it launched, and he sends me a check for 500. And the day it arrived, I'm like, yes, that was great, but I'm never doing that again. This is my first foray into like, hey, you can make money online, but it's like building websites. Again, it's sort of like trading time for money. So I'm like, I need to find something that's a recurring income. So around the same time, I'd been clicking on a lot of ads on Facebook of all these coaches, right? Of like, hey, you want to get into digital marketing? Check out my course. And again, there was things for Facebook ads, YouTube ads. But the one that I ended up going with was like review and reputation management software. So the idea was to sell software to local businesses to help them get more Google, Yelp, Facebook reviews. And it's like the course was $1,000. So I sort of bought into that. I'm like, oh, this is how I'm going to make $1 million. It's going to be great. So I'm going to charge $500 a month recurring. And I like had all these training videos. I would send them out to all these businesses with 1-star reviews, 2-star reviews. I'm like, they're going to love this. It's going to be the best thing ever. Well, I learned sales and success can happen easily. So I think the same thing. I sent out hundreds and hundreds of emails, but from that, I got maybe like 3, 5, 10 clients over the next 6 months, and they're all paying $500 a month. So I said, all right, well, this is the way to go. So that's sort of my first, I guess, glimpse into like real success of like, oh, I'm making $3,000 a month and I don't have to do anything once I've sold it. So I was growing that steadily for about a year or two, but then from those clients, they're like, well, do you do like any like Facebook marketing? That was becoming all the rage, right? Back in like 2018. People are like, well, I want to do Facebook ads. Do you do it? I'm like, I don't know, but I'll go learn. And that's essentially what I did. I went out and did some courses, figured out how to set up ads, and I tried all these different industries, right? Some from what I was doing with the reviews, like we had some law firms, roofing, solar, the deck guy, I was still trying to do some stuff with him. And again, just figuring out Facebook ads, and it was a lot of trial and error. Same thing of like, you're going to make millions off selling Facebook ads, but again, it's harder than it looks until you really figure it out. So I really, again, put all my time and effort into it while I still had my full-time job. I'd work nights and weekends working on essentially figuring out a system that worked, because I really didn't want to scale until I knew I had something that was working. And it happened to be the chiropractor I was going to in LA of like, well, he's like, yeah, do you want to help me out? I'm like, sure. So again, like he was really the reason that we got good, because he taught me everything about chiropractic. We got good at the ads and Facebook. And then again, it evolved from just doing lead forms to now landing pages. Now we're doing calendars. Now we're doing surveys. Now we're doing text reminders. So over those first years with him, we really developed the whole system. And then from that, he gave me 3 or 5 referrals, and then they sent me referrals. And then again, doing Facebook ads, we started running our own. And I think from that point, I got it up to about 20,000 a month in about, I think it was March of 2021. I'm like, all right, well, I'm ready to leave the full-time job and do this full-time and bring in some family members to grow it with me. So that was sort of like my little journey of like, all right, websites, then reviews, and then Facebook ads, stumbling along the way until it's like, all right, we've got something that works, get rid of everything else and just do ads for chiropractors. And that's sort of how it began.
So you were I mean, you built up to 20K a month solo, and were you kind of part-time at that point? I mean, what
Yeah,
did
very part-time.
that's very
Obviously,
crazy.
help because I wasn't in an office anymore. So again, I had a few extra hours a day when I again get all my work done, and then all right, do
Mhm.
an email or set up a new ad here and there. But predominantly, it was all after hours. Like I'd work 7:30
Mhm.
to 4, and then from 4 to midnight, I'd just like grind on the business. I'm like, all right, well, what do we need to do? And yeah, and just a lot of practice, and again, just trying a lot of different things. And I was doing it pretty cheap back then as well. I think again, I was charging like basically nothing just to get a few clients going. And then from that, it's like, all right, well, we can increase the price and again, get more clients and grow from that. So yeah, I think anyone can really start any internet money business where you can get it to 20 grand a month on your own. Don't think about, again, hiring other people or doing any of that until like you've got a system that is working so well. You've solved out the sales, the onboarding, the retention. You've done all of that first. And then once you don't have any issues in your business, then you can start to scale. If you're not good at sales and you try and hire a salesperson and you don't have something good to sell, that's probably not going to work. So it's like, I believe anyone can probably get to that 20 grand a month being a solopreneur and just get it done. And then, all right, at that point, you could probably still keep scaling a little bit more. It's just you, but why do that when you've got systems and a process that you can just train someone to do the same thing over and over again?
At what point did you feel like, well, first of all, what is validation to you as a business, as a startup? And at what point did you feel like you achieved kind of that validated model? Was it a revenue number? You had kind of a set number, like if I can hit that 20K, I'm validated? Or was it, I don't know, was there like a certain criteria that you had that you felt like, okay, I'm validated, it's like time to scale?
Yeah, I think so. I think like that 20 grand was like my initial number to like reward myself to leave the full-time job. Because again, it's terrifying. Like I was making easily over six figures a year and I sort of left that behind for the uncertainty of being my own boss, right? So it is pretty scary. And again, maybe I could have done it at 10 grand, but wouldn't have been as financially, I don't know, solid as what I was at 20 grand. So I think it was a matter of hitting that, but then also having the retention at like 95% because I feel like a lot of marketing companies, their average is 2 to 3 months, where ours is 2 to 3 years. And that makes a big difference when you are building a business and wanting to do something full time. You want it to continue to build and not just fall apart overnight. So that was obviously a fear, but getting to 20%, 20,000 and having, yeah, very few people actually leave was definitely validation of like, all right, well, this works. And then I also feel confident having someone else leave their full-time job and come over to me and me being responsible for them and their finances, which is also terrifying, right? Because it's like, I don't want to fail and then obviously have them leave a job and them fail as well. So again, I think it's getting to different milestones where I feel comfortable that, all right, it's validated and now we can move to the next step
Hmm.
in it.
The few conversations that you and I have had together and the few glimpses that I've had into your business and the way that you operate, um, I recognize you as a very systemized person, and I personally attribute a lot of your success to how well you've been able to systemize things, really in every aspect of your business, and that's something that I really have a lot of admiration for, especially because it's something that I strive to do in my own business, and help others to do in their own businesses. But especially in that solo phase, I feel like that is so crucial in order to prepare yourself for the next phase of growth, which is beginning to hire and to bring on more clients and all of that. And I feel like that piece is missing, and it makes that growth phase like that much more painful for a lot of solopreneurs that decide to go to the next level. um so I don't know, what did that, as you began to, I don't know, maybe consciously or subconsciously recognize this as a solo guy, what systems do you feel like were important during that solo phase so that you could bridge that gap into more of that growth and scaling phase?
Yeah, I know everyone talks about sort of niching down, right? And again, I think that gets overlooked quite easily because it's like if someone comes to you as a referral and say like, "Hey, can you do this for me?" You're like, "Huh, free money. Yes, I'll do it."
Yeah.
I think I learned the hard way of like in those early days, like I was again just focusing on the chiropractic industry, but from that I had one say, "Oh, my son owns a car wash. Can you do ads for him?" I'm like, "Sure." Had another one. "Oh, I've got a friend who has a bakery. She needs some help." "Okay, I've got a guy who does." Everyone's got a guy who needs help, right? And I would take all these projects, and it would just become a big time suck. I'd spend months and months trying to figure out the ads and the videos and the landing pages. And then guess what would happen? Like they just give up because it wasn't working. I'd be frustrated. I'd spent all this time on something. And then it was back to like, all right, well, back to just focusing on chiropractors where it's like I can launch 4 clients a month without any problem. Whereas that one client would take up time of like 10 new clients to chiropractic. And I went through this affair because I was just a nice guy. And again, it seemed like easy new money. And I would take on all these other little side projects that wasn't our main goal. And eventually they all fell apart and took up all my time and resource. So I feel like, yes, if you are going to do one type of marketing, just focus on that and then just avoid all the distractions of everything else that's out there because there's a lot of distractions. And again, it comes down to scaling as well. Like you want to do one thing really well. And then when you're teaching a team, they're doing the same one thing that you had perfected. You're not going, all right, Jimmy over here is my new employee, go and figure out how to do I don't know, something like a flower shop. It's like, well, do that when it's like we don't know how to market flower shops. We know how to do chiropractors. So again, it got hard with like we're just going to say no to everything. And as tempting as it would be to say no to money, we did. And I think that's part of the success of why we continue to grow and grow quick because we just focused on one thing.
And then you're just, I mean, you're perpetually kind of positioning yourself as the experts in the field, which you guys have done. I love that. As you kind of look internally at like the guts of the business, I mean, and back to kind of that conversation about systems. I mean, you mentioned onboarding. I mean, that's kind of like a underrated, estimated like part of this business, especially in the agency world. It's like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna like get as many clients as possible. But that process, that system, if it's not systemized, can be very time consuming and very draining. So I don't know. I feel like onboarding maybe is like a system in and of itself that really needs to be kind of perfected. I mean, the sales process is closely tied to that. The actual running of the ads or fulfilling of the service is another system. I don't know if retention is maybe another thing, but there's just a bunch of these like little cogs in the machine of the business. And maybe it just seems like you kind of stumble into that as you come across it, and you're just like continually perfecting it. And then yeah, you start to notice, I need help with this. I'm going to start to scale. Someone's going to take over sales or onboarding or whatever it is. Anything to add on to that before I kind of move into the next phase here?
And I think onboarding is super important, right? It's part of that trust building experience too with the client, because they've said yes to you after a sales call. And guess what? They're still unsure if you're legit and what you say you're going to do is actually going to happen. So our onboarding process is a little bit probably more tedious than most other agencies, because we are really big proponents on video content. So again, working with chiropractors and getting them to film their own content can be a stretch sometimes. A lot of them don't want to be on camera or don't want to do this or don't want to do that. And again, we have to get them to get over that obstacle. So it is a little bit of work, but again, we have a very good framework of like, this is what we discuss on the onboarding call. Here's the checklist. Here's what you need to do one thing at a time. And then it's a matter of checking in every single Monday rather. All right, we're waiting on this, this, and this. Can you get me this week? And then it's like, all right, let's just get one thing done at a time and again, walk them through the process. So by the end, again, they're proud of what we've created and excited for it to launch. And yeah, it also helps with retention too as well, because we are putting a lot more time and effort into every single client than potentially a lot of other agencies who have more canned ad creative, whether it's canned videos or canned image ads that they run for everyone. We always want to personalize our content. So again, some clients don't even make it through onboarding, right? And they never launch. And that's fine too, because we know with the success that we've had, it's through doing these personalized videos. And if they don't want to do the personalized videos, well, it's probably going to fail and you're going to quit after a few weeks anyway. So yes, it's just a matter of like, yeah, having a process and sticking to it. And again, we have 3 full-time account managers doing this, and they're doing the exact same thing every call. And that's how you grow. And again, like I said, one of many important parts, but yeah, it sort of sets the foundation for the long-term partnership.
Who was your first hire when you kind of jumped into this full time?
Yeah, so it was my dad, Frank. So
Cool.
he'd been doing sales most of his career. And when I decided I was going to leave my job, he said, well, I'm going to do that too and come work for you. So I said, all right, let's do this. And yeah, he'd been basically going around working for a company where it's like outdoor decks and patios, maybe where I got the idea for the first website. Like, I know all about this. But yeah, he was my first hire, and like he'd done sales. Again, it was more in person. So I had to sort of, again, train him. I'm like, all right, well, we're selling over Zoom. And again, he's in his 60s and like, this is how it's done. And again, he came on and did pretty much every single sales call. And then I did all the onboarding and fulfillment. So that was the first step of me not doing everything, because up until then, I'd do all the sales, I'd do all the onboarding, I'd do all the account management. So yeah, he came on in, I think about June 2021, about 3 months after I left my job. So I'm like, all right, I'm feeling good that I can, again, I've got the time now that I'm full-time in this business. Now I'm going to train you to obviously duplicate myself when it comes to sales. And yeah, it worked out really well.
Wow. So how has your / the whole business, the sales process evolved over time? I imagine in the beginning it was kind of, I don't know, maybe piecemeal, but you guys have a lot of reps under your belt at this point in time. So you probably have it pretty, down and systemized. But yeah, how did that evolve over time?
Yeah, so I had really figured it out like months before maybe not even that, maybe like 6 months before like leaving the job. Again, I was looking for coaching, and again, I don't think it exists anymore, but it was called agency hypergrowth, right? So I wrote them a check for 7,500. We're gonna teach you everything sales and onboarding. I'm like, okay, well, that's what I need, right? And yeah, it really did change everything. I think I was probably like 8,000 a month in October 2019, and then like in 8 months, like it went to 20, like it more than doubled, just because we had sales systems, right? Like we had a better overview and a better proposal process with like our Panda doc and what we would send off. And again, just tightened up a lot of things. It was very all over the place. I had never really had sales training before, but once I figured out like, well, this is how you sell. You don't answer their first question when you get on a Zoom, how much does this cost? And I'm like, it's this much. And they're like, all right, I'm good. Bye. Whoa, what just happened? It's like, you always tell the price after you've given all the value, right? And it's just simple things like that when you're going into business for yourself. You don't think about it. You're like, oh, this price is so cheap. They're going to say, yeah. But it's like, no, you never talk about price until they know what they're actually getting and how you're different to everyone else. So by the time Frank had come on, I had the system. It's like, here's the presentation, here's all the objections, this is how we answer this and this and this is how we demo it. And it really hasn't changed too much from that initial bringing him on of like, this is how we sell the service. And it's good. And we may update the slides with some stats and some new creative, but for the most part, the demo we do, it's pretty much the same all the time.
So are you guys, I know you're running ads, or you were running ads at some point in time. So what is your current primary acquisition channel? I imagine in the very beginning, I mean, you mentioned you were getting a lot of referrals, word of mouth. How did that evolve into maybe ads? And then I don't know, what other types of acquisition methods have you guys used to even get people on calls with you?
Yeah, for sure. So definitely ads is where we got most of our growth. Just running Facebook, Instagram ads to chiropractors saying, do you need help with marketing? And this is why you should chat with us. So that's become like a big channel. I would say the last 12 months it's probably shifted from that being like 80%, referrals being 20%, to like flipping it on its head. It's now like referrals are 80% and ads is 20%. A big part of that as well is we do exclusivity. So we only take on one client per an area, and we're literally turning down like 3/4 of people who come through our ad just because like, oh, we've got someone 2 miles away, or we've got someone 3 miles away from you, and we have a wait list in dozens of cities. So again, we're again relying more on referrals of like, all right, well, where's your friend located who has a practice? Oh, they're in there. So let me check first, and then that's good, and then do the sales call from that. So it's definitely shifted. Again, when you get really good and someone knows about that, they're going to tell a lot of their friends, as long as it's not going to be down the road from them. They, again, have buddies they went to college with who are in different parts of the country. So again, we love referrals. Again, it's like a big foot in the door, and they sort of are going to say yes regardless, because if their friend has said we're a good job in what we do. So that's probably the main two, ads. And then we've dabbled in like some of like the cold calling and cold emailing. And again, it's just, I feel like everyone's doing that, and it's not very successful, especially the chiropractic industry, because it's so saturated and there's so many people trying to get into that market. So again, we'd rather someone see our ad and click on that and come to us instead of us trying to like cold call, cold email. We've got a few that way, but it's just not scalable as Facebook ads is.
It's kind of funny how that is just in the digital marketing space. It's like you learn digital marketing, you learn ads in particular, and it's like one of the first targets, one of the easy prey out there is like the chiropractors, the dentists, the local guys who, maybe have money or maybe are, looking to grow. But it's also like, I think a big part of that is honestly, it's if you can crack the code, like I believe you guys have done, it's almost rinse and repeat in every city, which is like such a beautiful model. It's just like going back to what you were talking about in the beginning. It's like you're not having to reinvent the wheel every single time you bring on a new client. Like you have a very streamlined approach to like, this is how we onboard you. This is like, you know what to expect internally, but also externally as you talk to the client. It feels very professional and like what you're doing, because one, you do, but also two, like you just know what to expect. You know how to lead them through this process that is, it's just such a well-oiled machine. And Yeah, I mean, I commend you guys for building such an amazing business.
I think we got in
But
early too with the chiropractic niche. Like literally, it's probably January 2018. It's like this is all we're going to do now, and like we grew aggressively in the market. And I would say, well, there's still probably opportunity today. It's like it's going to be a lot harder because there's us and there's probably half a dozen other very big established chiropractic agencies out there that you're going to be competing against. And if, again, chiropractors are very skeptical, and if
yeah.
they believe you or you can't prove testimonials and case studies, they're probably not going to go with you. So it's like, it's not
Hmm.
possible, but I think we got in very early before it's like, all right, chiropractors know they just need to do digital marketing, where prior to COVID, they're like, oh, we're fine. But now COVID onwards, the landscape's changed. Everyone's doing digital marketing. Um,
Hmm.
us and the other companies who saw that prior to COVID really just exploded during that period. And again, it's probably us and six others who have pretty much the entire market share. And then there's other people trying to get into it. But again, it's a tough industry because, like you said, every course I see the ads, how to make $2,500 with a chiropractor. It's like, well, and you're like trying to get that per month, and B, it's like it's very saturated, and you have to be very, very, very good and different in your approach. You can't just run lead form ads and hope to make a million. It's like you need to do a lot more when it comes to marketing and the strategy and the creative and the automations and the AI and all this other stuff that they expect these days.
And I agree with you. I mean, I don't know that I would ever attempt to, at this point in time, get into chiropractors, even though it's very attractive. And I have, as you know, an in into the chiropractic industry, but I still I agree with you. I think there are some heavy hitters in the space right now, you guys included, that I just don't know if I want to compete against that. But if you were to kind of start from scratch right now, knowing what you know, what would be kind of your criteria for selecting a niche?
Yeah, I would say obviously look at how many there are in the US, right? Like if you're going after something that only has 300 people in that industry, well, that's a small industry. I think that's why chiropractic and dental are so appealing because there's got to be 50 to 100,000 in each category, right? So there's a lot in every city that, again, you can go after. Um, so I think it's just like, yeah, really defining your industry, look at sort of what the general market is doing, and then locate what can you do better. And that's sort of what we did. Still today, a lot of agencies just do very canned basic marketing, where it's like we put in the time and effort through that onboarding process to create better marketing that's not generic, and that's what works well. So I'd say, yeah, whatever the industry is, like see what else is out there, and it's like, can you do a better job than that? And then you have a shot at least cracking a few clients, right? And then proving your model of like, well, this is how we're different. It may be slight, but this is how we're different to the other people in that space. And then again, get really good at it. And that'll be proven through referrals and then obviously retention rate.
So what is kind of you mentioned you have this exclusivity kind of policy in place. What is like your general radius? So if I were to, select plumbing, for example, and I say, okay, I'm going to go strictly after plumbers, what kind of radius should I put around that specific city so that I am not overlapping too much?
Yeah, I think it comes down to population density, right? So obviously, if you look at big city like Tampa, we probably have 7 clients across the Tampa region, and no one's interacting with each other because you could do a 3 to 5 mile radius, and it has hundreds of thousands of people. Whereas you might be in the middle of Idaho, for example, and you have to do a 50-mile radius and you're still only going to reach 20,000 people. So it all comes down to population density and then also working with the client of like, well, what are people willing to drive, right? For me, and you living in a big city, like 20 minutes, it's like, whoa, I'm not driving more than 20 minutes. Everything is within a 20-minute drive. But if you're in a more rural area, they may be used to getting on a freeway at 60 miles an hour and driving 45 minutes, which may be 45 miles away. But they're used to doing that. And then it's like, all right, well, we can set the radius to that. But obviously, if you're in LA and you live in Santa Monica and you set a 60-mile radius, people aren't going to come from Rancho Cucamonga. No way. They're not even going to come from West Hollywood. So it's about knowing the area and the market and obviously working with the client if you're not familiar with the area, because again, there's no point running ads to people who are too far away that they're not going to, again, get in their car and go to the appointment. Well, they might do the first appointment, but they're like, I need to come back 8 times. Like, I'm not driving across the city in peak hour to do that. But in the rural areas, again, if they're country roads or freeways and people are used to driving 45 minutes to go get a loaf of bread, then say, well, they'll probably drive to go see a dentist or a chiropractor or whatever they need to do that's further away. So again, there's no set answer. It's a matter of like population and then working with the client of like, well, what's a reasonable area that people are going to willing to come in from. They have a pretty good idea as well.
Hmm. What you brought up retention a couple times, and I feel like that is kind of the core of this business. If you really break down, why it's such an appealing model. I mean, if you're able to retain clients, which can be one of the hardest parts, then you have a very successful business on your hands. How have you been able to retain clients so well? I mean, you mentioned back in the day, hoping for like a 95% retention rate, which we both know is crazy, and not normal in the industry. So yeah, how have you been able to do so well with retention? What kind of goes into that? And also, like, I guess internally, what is kind of the range of retention KPIs that you look for to be successful?
Yeah, I think results equals retention in its most simplest form. Like if you're not getting results, guess what? They're going to leave. Um, I think we do a better job when it comes to the value and the results provided. I think that's what it comes down to. Like I said, there's a ton of competition, and a lot of people have been to all of the other agencies, and then they get on a call and they're just so distressed of like, this all sounds so good, but I just don't know if I can do it again. Like, we've got to walk them through of like, well, this is why we're different. Like, give this a shot. And then we usually hear of like, well, I wish I found you guys 3 years ago because I've spent so much time, I wasted so much money, and I haven't done anything. And you've done more in 2 months than the other agency did in a year. And it's like, all right, well, when you get someone saying that, guess what? Retention is fantastic. So I feel like, again, doing a better job than other agencies leads to retention. If they've been burned 3 or 4 times and come to us and they're getting double the results or maybe 1.05% better, they're going to probably stick around because they know what bad marketing is and time wasting. So I think if you don't do a good job, they will leave. Out of the 5% who do leave, it's either they try and take it all in-house or they go and find someone who's cheaper, and then guess what? They're back within 30 to 60 days because it doesn't necessarily result in better, right? And it's like if you're going from 20 to 30 appointments a month and now you're getting 3 appointments a month by saving $500, for example, it's like, well, wouldn't you spend 500 more and go back to 20 to 30 appointments than 3 appointments? So again, a lot of agencies promise the world and underdeliver, which works towards our benefit because, again, we encourage people. We don't do contracts. Like, you go try them, try do it yourself. Try use someone who's cheaper and see what happens. And again, if they come back, we know like, well, they're probably going to be with us for life now because they've gone to the other side, seen it's not greener grass over there, and it helps our retention clause. But for the most part, we do a good job that they don't want to go to someone else. And again, if they're making money and it's working, like, why leave? So again, if you can get good results, you don't need contracts. Just do a better job and they'll stay.
Wow. So it's month to month. Is that kind of the
we do it even different. Week billing. I don't think anyone else in any industry is really doing
week to week.
They pay weekly. So it's like,
wow.
We've got hundreds of clients on weekly with no commitment of staying next week. Like, that's a pretty strong, solid business. So
wow.
To get started, it's like, even if you're having some slight cash flow issues, like the first weekly fee, it's not much to get started and try it out. So generally, if we get started,
amazing.
So again, I think that's one of the big reasons why a lot of people starting don't get started, because like they're trying to charge too much in terms of the retainer, or they're charging big setup fees and they're asking for all this big money and commitment when they haven't proved anything, right? And it's like 99% of chiropractors or any business will say, hold up a minute, like, why do I trust you to do all this for that amount of money? Whereas us, it's like you're pretty much getting started with like no risk. And it's like, if you don't start and try us, like, it's crazy to us. Like, why would you not try it? And then once they try it, the idea is that they like it and they never want to leave. So again, I think it just comes down to having a good product that you're offering that you can do that. Obviously, if you had a crappy service and it didn't work, people would be leaving after week 2, right? So obviously you can't can't offer that if you can't back up. And I think that's what people like. They're like, wow, I can pay weekly and cancel at any time. It's like, yeah, if you're not happy, then you can leave. And obviously
Wow.
start, and then obviously you need to deliver to keep them going.
Wow. How long does it, I mean, that is extremely appealing as a service provider, but also as a client. How long do you feel like it typically takes to get results for someone? I mean, if it takes 2 or 3 weeks to get results, but they're hoping for something in the first week, then you just kind of have to bridge that gap. But I don't know, how long does it usually take for you to get those results?
In like 48 hours, they've got their first 1 or 2.
Wow,
So it's like, yeah,
that's amazing.
yeah. And it's like after the first week, they're like wowed, and then it's like, yeah, it just keeps snowballing after that with like the automations and workflows to follow up on people who don't book, right? So yeah, it's an attribute to like our system of like, yeah, it can pretty much plug in, and if they follow the steps, like it will work really well.
Mm-hmm.
It has to, right? Otherwise, if it gets nothing in the first 2 weeks, then bye bye. So
Yeah,
so yeah, you gotta
yeah.
live up to your game to obviously run the model that we're running, where it's like super low risk for them, because they will leave if they're not getting results that they'd hope for.
So, how long does it like? What's the timeline like from the time they book a call? So I'm in Salt Lake City. I book a call with you. We get on a call. You kind of show me your presentation. It's I guess is it a one call close technically?
Yeah, it typically is.
Okay.
If my dad Frank does the sales call, like he'll typically do a Zoom, runs for about 20 minutes, says this is
Hmm.
everything you need to know. Are you interested? And they're like, yep, let's do it. So then he would then book that person onto one of our account managers' calendars for onboarding, right? So at that point, again, they'll get on. They're like, all right, they've got all the onboarding documents prepped with their information. They sort of run through like, this is the 5 things you need to do. Do you have any questions? Do you have any questions about our company, what Frank talked to you about? And maybe they want to revisit like, well, how does that calendar automation thing work? So then it's like, all right, we'll do a little demo again of like, this is what they do. They do this, and they just, oh man, yeah, that's what I thought it did, but that's really good. So it's like getting those answers to them, and then obviously like, all right, well, once you leave that call, they've got their homework of like, here's the 5 things we need from you. And then it's a matter of just checking in with them each week saying, all right, well, what questions do you have? Like, we haven't received this yet. Can you get this done this week? And then it's just, yeah, chase until they get launched. So I think the record's like 3 days after an onboarding call. Some have taken up to 6 months. And I'm sure that
Oh wow.
on with their life. Maybe they're on a contract with another agency that was a year long and they're waiting for that to end, or maybe there's different things going on we don't know about. But yeah, well, obviously we're not pushy. It's like, if you want to start with us, we do it when you're ready.
And you don't need to be. You don't need to be. You're plenty busy. You don't need to be
Yeah, and
pushy.
we're launching 10 plus clients a month on a regular slow month. So it's like we've launched up to 30 clients in a month. So it's like we're always working, and it's like some will trickle out real quick, some will take much longer. And again, everyone's on their own journey to get launched. Usually comes down to how desperate and how much they're hurting for new patients, right? If they're like, we need to get this going yesterday, and then they go it real quick. If they're, again, maybe they're doing 80% okay and there's no real urgency to start marketing, those are the ones that typically take longer to launch.
Mm-hmm. So they don't pay until, or when do they first pay?
Yeah, so when it actually goes live, so that's also part of the value
Wow.
proposition. Right? Your
Yeah.
weekly billing starts the day it goes live, and we don't charge any setup fees, no contracts.
Wow.
So it's like, yeah, you get us our stuff, and if it takes 2 months, you don't pay anything until that 2 months has come. So yeah, it's a
Wow.
pretty no-brainer offer. We've always run like that. It's just like we just make it so easy for everyone to say yes that it's like, that's how you grow. Like, there's absolutely nothing cost, time, effort. Like, it's all very yes. I don't think anyone ever says no on the call. It's just a matter of whether they're serious about actually taking all the steps they need to do, whether they actually
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow, that's amazing. So, what does your team look like at this point? Obviously, your first hire was Frank, who is over sales, but what are some of the other roles that comprise of this dream team?
Yeah, so it's basically been an annual hire every year since my dad. So he came on board, I think, June of 2021. And then my youngest brother, Liam, came on, I think, around March of 2022. And then my other brother, Mitch, he came on, I think, in April 2023. And then in May of this year, 2024, my brother-in-law, Mike Giant, joined full-time. So essentially, they all left their previous careers and endeavors they were working on to basically come work for me full-time. So yeah, that's also part of the whole shtick because like you're working with the Garen group. We're family owned. Like we do everything in house. We're not outsourcing anything to India or the Philippines. I know some agencies do that, but again, working with one of us, and again, everyone's tied to the family. So part of my
That's
long-term
awesome.
staff retention plan, right? It's like you're with me for life. You're not going to quit and go do something else. So again, we're very close-knit family. Like we all talk and text and Zoom pretty much every day. Again, it's nothing better than talking business and life and family and relationships and making money while we're doing our life together while all in different parts. So yeah, for
Wow.
now, it's keep it in the family. And yeah, there's still lots of potential for everyone to keep growing and making a lot of money out of this thing.
That's amazing. It seems like it's been obviously a very positive experience for you, but and I have plenty of experience working with family as well. But I don't know why do so many people out there say never work with family and never work with friends? I mean, is that what I mean? What do you think about that advice, and how has it been working with family?
Yeah, no, it's very interesting. It's just like a very common argument with I don't know how much basis. I was even at a conference in Tampa last year. I think Magic Johnson was like, never work with family. Like, okay. um, no, I think, yeah, it definitely depends on the family and like the relationships and like is everyone as committed as you are, right? If they weren't, obviously I probably would not have brought them on. But we're a very similar personality. Like grew up in Australia, I have very high ethics and morals and hardworking mentality, right? So it's like we bring a lot to the table, each of us. Um, so no, obviously it's probably not for everyone. Obviously there could be a few gripes along the way, which again are very small in the scheme of things. But again, we're all helping each other. But then it's also as part of my business strategy is obviously you don't want to be ripped off, right? So obviously if you were to hire someone outside the family, it probably wouldn't take them too long to figure out everything we do and then just go bye-bye and then duplicate what we're doing on their own. So I feel like
Hmm.
having the trust and the family doing it, it's like, well, we're going to keep this secret system in house and we're just going to build it up. And part of that is like they're paid very, very handsomely for what they do, right? Like you wouldn't get a third of this from any other agency. So again, they're rewarded for obviously their loyalty and commitment. And I think, again, when everyone's making big bucks, it's like it's a win-win-win for everyone. Like I'm winning, they're
Hmm.
winning. And yeah, it makes for a good family catch-up trip once a year.
That's amazing. That's so cool. So what is now that you've signed on new clients, you've onboarded them, you've launched them, what does delivery kind of look like internally? How often are you having to kind of check in and I mean, is it pretty automated? Is it pretty hands off, hands on? What does that kind of look like after launch?
Yeah, so it's definitely like support on demand. We sort of price ourselves very reasonably, where it's like you don't get monthly reporting or you don't get a weekly or monthly call. It's like if you have issues or concerns or questions, you come to us and we'll always get back to you immediately, whether it's an email or a text or jump on a phone call or a Zoom call and we'll get whatever you want to talk about sorted. But it's more of once it's running, if it's performing and they're happy and we're happy, then it's like it's pretty much left to run just because we put all of our heavy lifting into the initial campaign, right? So our ad creatives have very, very long shelf life. I have some from maybe 4 or 5 years ago who have launched one ad and it still runs today and we don't touch it. We don't talk. They make money. I make money. Everyone's making money. Everyone's happy. So that's obviously the most ideal situation, right? But obviously with chiropractic, as I'd mentioned earlier, there's more and more clinics out there. While they're not our clients, they're still running ads and they're competitors to what we're doing, right? So sometimes we do need to refresh things more often in some areas compared to others. If, again, we're running a $49 offer and then all of a sudden there's 5 other clinics running it for $29. It's like, well, where are all our leads going? It's like, well, they're going to these cheaper offers. So it's like, well, what can we do to our offer to make it better, right? Do we need new video? Do we need to add something to the price to compete with that. So again, we sort of keep an eye on everything. And if something's sort of falling way behind, we sort of get on it and it's like, all right, well, we need to chat. And then we sort of deal with support that way. But again, I think part of our ability to grow is that what we do works so well 90% of the time that we're not doing a weekly crisis management meeting of like, well, what's going on? We need to save you as a client. It's like, no, it works pretty well if you follow what we do and the system we do works. We're not reinventing the wheel, right? And if it's not working, usually there's a few things we can do to try and fix it within that first few weeks. And then it gets to a point where it's like, all right, it should run for 3-6 months or longer without having to do anything to it. And that's sort of part of the success of like why they like it. They went through that hard work at the beginning, but now they don't have to do it again because like, hey, it is kicking off 20, 30 appointments a month and they're closing half of them. It's like, well, you're making money. You can spend a bit more. We can maybe do a new video, but for the most part, like it's pumping and again, they're happy and keep it going.
What does that actual delivery look like? I mean, do the appointments actually get set? Are they leads that they kind of follow up on and they close? How does that part look on your end, their end?
Yeah, so again, it's pretty much appointments booked onto their calendar, right? So basically, we're guiding the lead from clicking on the ad to a landing page to different funnels where the eventual goal is they book a day and time on the person's calendar, which is auto-confirmed, and then the person gets the reminders and the person shows up. So best case scenario, like 80% of the leads just show up at the door and the person hasn't done a single thing. So that's what they really enjoy about it. Obviously, it's not going to be 100%. Some people need to cancel or reschedule and might get the occasional no-show, but we've sort of designed a lot of these automations and workflows to reduce that as much as possible, where essentially they're just getting booked appointments on their calendar. They don't want leads to call. They just want people showing up at the door.
What does your day-to-day look like now that you're not a solopreneur and you're a couple of years into this and you've got this whole machine kind of running itself? What does that look like?
Yeah, so I definitely have like a handful of legacy clients who report to me still. And again, they come with emails and I'll get back to them. So I might deal with maybe like 1 to 3 people a week from my legacy clients who like have questions or concerns, and I'll work with them. But apart from that, I'm just sort of overseeing the rest of the team, right? So obviously supporting them and making sure that, again, they know what they're doing. And if they get stuck or have client issues, they'll get me involved and ask for advice of like, well, how do we handle this situation or something like that? So it's more of, again, just overseeing the team, where it's just a matter of, making sure the whole thing is running smoothly. So again, while we're growing aggressively, I'm still probably working 10 hours a week, which is
that is crazy. What, if you don't mind sharing, what's kind of your next benchmark of, either revenue goals or, obviously that initial glimmer of validation was the 20K a month mark. What is kind of your next, your next benchmark?
Yeah, so I think our short-term goal is definitely like $500,000 a month, which we should get to by the end of 2025, sort of the goal. And then from that, again, mindset, $1 million a month, that's the next goal after that. So we definitely will be expanding into sort of new ventures to get to that point, mainly because with the chiropractic industry, we're saying no to so many people that we're in pretty much every major city that we just can't take on any new people without double dipping, which we really don't want to do, because if we do, it can hurt the existing campaign, and that's just not what we want. So again, one client per an area, pretty much take up 500 cities in America is sort of the goal, while sort of working on some other ventures to do digital marketing, but some other spaces as well.
Is there any opportunity to provide additional services to your current network of chiros, or is that not something you want to do?
So traditionally, most chiropractors out there are like a single practice owner, do it all, right? And like they rent a room and it's just them. They don't have any front staff. They don't have any assistants. Some do, but I'd say 80% do not. It's just the owner and they do it all. So with that, budgets and revenues aren't that of corporations, right? Like if they're making, I don't know, say 80 grand a year and you're selling a service for this much and ads, they're like, oh, the margins are good. And it's like, there's only so much they want to spend on marketing and advertising without eating into their profits. And ultimately, we're delivering the number one thing that they want new people in the door to sell to, right? So beyond what we do there, we do have, again, some other nice fancy like online tools, but it doesn't really help grow them as an industry. Like, sure, we can help them get more reviews, right? We can help them get more social media content posted every day of the week, right? We can do all these extra things, but it doesn't move the needle in terms of people in the door. They're paying for that. While we offer these add-on services, most do not want that. So our idea is to shift into sort of businesses make from 100,000 a year, for example, if that's your average, to like, all right, we want to start working with businesses that make 1 to 10 million a year, and then start offering more of these digital marketing initiatives that make sense because they have the budgets and they have more competition and they're on a bigger scale. So I think we've definitely dominated the very small local business market, which is single practice business owners, right? Like, it's as small as you can get. It's just them. To working with bigger companies who have budgets and marketing departments, and again, showing them everything that we can bring to the table through our company.
Have you started working with this new niche or this new expansion service yet?
No, it's in the works. So we're definitely dialing in what we're going to be doing next. But yeah, it's going to be just offering like a whole suite of tools to obviously help them grow their existing presence. That's, again, in that bigger $1 to $10 million industry.
Well, do you feel like it's going to be a similar type of, I mean, rinse and repeat type of every city type of situation, just with bigger budgets?
Yeah, well, it's going to be like more industries, more potential, better retention, less maintenance than what we already do, which is fairly low. But I feel like there's more opportunity of just selling software that sort of run 24/7, and once it's set up, again, you can continue to make that recurring income. So that's sort of the next frontier. And I do see a big shift in the industry. If you're in any of the marketing groups out there, or softwares like Go High Level, for example, like every agency under the sun uses that. And their shift the last 2 years is like, get into SaaS and get into AI and get into this. So we're sort of following the trend now that we've sort of dominated the Facebook ads market. And we also want to diversify, right? We don't want to have 1 million clients all doing Facebook ads, and then 10 years from now, no one's on Facebook. It's like, I think now is the time to start diversifying into different offerings. It's not just Facebook, right? Because you never know what's going to happen in the future. So really want to future-proof our business for the long term as well. And again, it's getting into new and exciting things where it's like, hey, I'm having like those sleepless nights again because I'm getting ideas and I like write notes on my phone. I'm like, oh, we need to do this, I need to do that tomorrow, and oh, got a great idea. So again, it's like reinventing the business, but still being in digital marketing.
What other trends are you seeing right now in the digital marketing space, and just strategically, tactically marketing? I mean, anything in that general realm? Any other trends you're noticing?
Yeah, well, I think AI is definitely like the hot topic keyword, right? Everyone's like, AI. Even clients ask us, they don't really know what it is, but it's like we do a lot of that already when it comes to like, automations and tools built into their systems. They don't even know it's working. But yeah, I think it's just a matter of like using technology to help businesses grow, right? I think with all these tools and the shift is it's really removing the need of a front desk person who may be making $20 an hour and clocks in, clocks out. Whereas AI can be living on all of their online assets, whether it's their Facebook Messenger or their Instagram DM, someone messaging them back straight away, but it's AI doing it, not the person. So I think it's going to start picking up even more where it's like, it's not necessarily like replacing a front desk. It's like adding a new team member that never sleeps, never takes vacation, always replies right away, right? That's what you want your perfect employee to do, but they do that Monday through Friday. So I think using these tools and then programming them to your needs and the client's needs, I think that's a huge opportunity. And again, it all goes back to like, what do they all want? More sales appointments. And if you can program these tools to do that, that's where you're going to make lots of money. And that's where we're sort of going down that path.
Wow. This is my last question before we wrap up here. But what do you kind of do to kind of stay sharp, both as a CEO and founder, also as just a digital marketer, especially in kind of a very transient industry where the trends are coming and going. I don't know what kind of either books are you reading, or authors or gurus do you closely follow, or podcasts you listen to? How do you kind of stay sharp and continue to improve yourself?
Yeah, so I think honestly seeing what's online. Like I love clicking on other people's ads who are selling stuff. Like I'm not necessarily going to purchase, but I love looking at their funnels, right? Are they doing VSL? Are they running webinars? Are they selling a subscription course to sell their program, right? So I'm always like clicking on things, going on calls and just like seeing how other people are selling. I don't buy most of it, but I'm like, oh, this is interesting. Like someone do like try and do the hard close, right? Or someone like, well, we need to do 3 calls, and like, all right, I'll go along and listen. At the end, I'm like, or cold emails. I get so many cold emails, and some like really like are well written. So I'm like, yes, I'll reply to this and see where it goes, and just sort of see what their next step is. Are they emailing back? Are they trying to get you on a Zoom call? Are they trying to send you a video to watch? So it's just like being involved through what we do, and again, just being on Facebook and stuff all day, every day, just seeing what's out there. And I think you can learn a lot from other people who are doing certain things. And it's like, oh, you might get an idea from that of like, oh, we should run a 1 minute video on Loom that we're going to send to people if someone asks this question. So there's like little ideas. So I think that's probably the main way. Going to conferences once a year is definitely now on the priority list again, now that COVID's over and things are happening. So I think it's great just to be around other people who are in that entrepreneur mindset. I went to one in Tampa last year and again made a couple of great friends who I'm sure are going to be lifelong friends. And it's like just listening to these speakers like Magic Johnson and hearing inspiration and potentially getting ideas of like what's going on and what the future is. So things are always changing, but yeah. And I do read some books occasionally. I know a lot of marketers out there are writing ebooks about like, again, not necessarily going to do them, but like the pay per call is a book ad going around. You might have seen it, right? And they're like, buy our book 95, use pay for shipping. And it's interesting. They're talking about the model of selling calls to networks who are doing insurance. And like there's different ways and different directions you can go in internet money, right? And there's all different ways you can go. Again, probably don't get too distracted because there are a lot of shiny objects, but it's like, I think, well, I'm not going to go do the pay per call method. It's like, maybe I'll learn something from that book or from that video or from that sales call that they tried to pitch me on. And then it's like, maybe I can adapt that in some way in the future. So I think just being involved in the community online and seeing what's there. There's tons of Facebook groups like Go High Level is a great source. There's always people posting ideas. All the other marketing coaches and consultants, they put out a lot of free content where you can just go watch their videos and learn without actually paying them anything. So yeah, there's lots of opportunity. I'll just say, yeah, don't get distracted and try and do 10 different things. Like really figure out what's your main goal and then stick to it. If you stick to it long enough, and again, just don't take no for an answer, you'll get there with whatever it is.
Wow. Thank you so much. This was extremely eye-opening and honestly inspiring. I hope that well, I know this will be very valuable to all the internet money hungry people out there.
It's possible. It's possible. Like again, like that was like one of my limiting beliefs. I remember I first got my accountant. I was making maybe like $8,000 a month and needed help with bookkeeping. And she was like, yeah, like we have tons of clients, like they make $1 million a year. I'm like, oh, wow, that sounds great. I'll never get there. And then it's like last year we did over $1 million easily. And then it's like, it's possible. But if you just keep going and never give up, like the only, again, way to success is not giving up. So it's like, keep going at it. Again, it might take you 4 years, but hey, if you can leave your job and make unlimited money and hire all your family, like why wouldn't you do that? It's worth the road to get there.
That's amazing. Well, hey, good luck on your next benchmark here, getting to 500K a month very soon, and then $1 million shortly after that. Best of luck to you and your family, and really appreciate you. I'll chat with you soon, man. Thank you so much.
No worries. Enjoy the chat.